Welcome to the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast with me, Venus O'Hara. An orgasmic lifestyle is about reaching a climax in all areas of life, not just in the bedroom. Here, we dive deep with expert guests on topics like nutrition, spirituality, personal development, sexuality, and much more. Together, we'll explore lifestyle lessons to help you lead a life that's fulfilling, joyful, and unapologetically orgasmic. I'm your guide, Venus O'Hara. Welcome to episode 125 of the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast with Venus O'Hara. In this Book Moon episode, we discuss Tantra, sacred sexuality, and abundance. We speak with Layla Martin, who is a Tantra expert and has been described as the head mistress of pleasure. She's also the founder of the Vita coaching method. I also review the book Manifest Your Infinite Riches, Master the Art of Living an Abundant Life by future podcast guest Pushkar Anand. The episode ends with a guided meditation with affirmations for living a tantric lifestyle. But first, let me share with you some of my own experiences and perspectives on sacred sexuality and transcendental sex. Yummy! I must confess that I don't really know much about the world of Tantra, even though it intrigues me and interests me on a very deep level. We must point out that Tantra is not just about sex. And when I spoke to today's guest, Layla Martin, I realized that she really is the real deal. I kind of knew that before, but I was fascinated while I was speaking to her, and it gave me this desire to learn more about the world of Tantra and about her world as well and what she is sharing on her platforms. I cannot wait to share this interview with you. However, on this monologue, I'm not going to claim to speak about Tantra in any way, but I wanted to share some of my own experiences and perspectives on sacred sexuality and how I've always realized, or not realized, but I've always perceived the act of penetration especially to be transcendental and to be incredibly powerful, to the point where, as Napoleon Hill said in Think and Grow Rich, it can be something that's destructive or constructive depending on how it's used and what the intention is. That has definitely been my experience. I think I first realized this when I was very young, actually, when I first started having sex, and there's a part of the vagina called the AFE zone, or the A spot. And that was really my real pleasure point. And I felt when that part was stimulated, which is actually very deep inside the vagina on the front wall, it's called the anterior fornix erogenous zone. I felt this massive point of surrender. And it was like opening this portal to God, even though I wasn't really a believer of God at the time. But it was very, emotional and transcendental. It made me realize that the act of sex was not just a physical act. It was emotional. It was spiritual. It was a conscious expression. Even though at the time I did not define myself as any of those things, I just allowed myself to feel it. However, I did approach it with caution, and I was aware sometimes that I needed to kind of have penetration in my life to get this supply of consciousness almost. And that led me to make some bad decisions sometimes, just learning about my own desires and how to handle them. And I was never into promiscuity. And sometimes when I had experiences that were not emotional, I realized how empty it is when you just have sex with a body and it's not really about exploring anything more about that person or the energy. And so I've always favored regular sex with the same person to kind of get that depth and emotion. And also, I really love the idea of exploring or perceiving someone's body as a playground in the most beautiful way, the joy of giving and not just thinking about receiving. Because when I've been in more casual situations, I'm just about give me what you've got kind of thing. I'm not really so motivated by sexual generosity. So over my life, I've been kind of afraid of this desire that I've had and this immense power that sexuality has. And then sometimes I didn't really know how to handle it. And that's why for me, sex toys were very empowering, because it allowed me to be more in control of this burgeoning sexual desire that I've always had, a very high libido. And it helped me to make better decisions when it came to choosing my lovers when it wasn't always emotional. And when it was emotional, that was also kind of not always the best choices, let's say. But of course, everything happens for a reason. And now that I've become more spiritual, I'm really embodying that kind of transcendental state of sexual energy, and really seeing sexuality as a love language, as a personal development tool, as something, as an expression of consciousness, as a connection to God, as cosmic energy. And I've experienced so many times cosmic orgasms, even while through masturbation, and even with people, and where it's become this kind of like seeing a white light, and you're kind of floating in the planets, where you kind of leave the room, have an out of body experience. And I think those are the times that really bring me to presence and flow and aliveness. I really do think that the purpose of life, or a lot of the things that we do when we seek pleasure and joy, is to feel aliveness. And you can do that through eating, through nature, through sex, and love, and just connection in general. I have a phrase on my desk called "Go where you feel the most alive," and I love that. It kind of reminds me of when I'm choosing projects, professional projects, I'm always looking for that aliveness. And there's no greater aliveness, in my humble opinion, than the act of penetration, even more than any other act. That's my own personal perspective. There's just something about two bodies coming together. I'm just loving kind of the male-female connection personally. That's what drives me insane in a beautiful way. And just feeling that, every breath can be shared, every movement is perceived by both. And this union, this idea of 1 + 1 = 3, this new entity that emerges through this oneness of union. Oh my God. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there, because I think that is just too much for my brain at this time of the day. And I just wanted to celebrate sexuality, union, presence, and aliveness. Anyway, let's hear from our expert today, who is a wealth of knowledge. What if your pleasure was the portal to your power? My new book, Orgasmic Manifestation, Transform Your Life with Your Sexual Energy, by Venus O'Hara, is your guide to using desire as a tool for abundance, purpose, and deep self-connection. Your orgasm is more than a moment. It's a message, a manifestation, a mirror of your limitless potential. Available now on Amazon. Link in the show notes below. Now it's time for this episode's interview. We speak with Layla Martin, a Tantra expert and the founder of the Vita coaching method. Layla Martin, welcome to the Orgasmic Lifestyle podcast, where every day is a climax. I'm so happy to speak to you today.
Oh, wonderful. It's lovely to be here. Thank you for having such an orgasmic podcast.
So for those who are unfamiliar with your work, could you tell us what you do?
I am the creator of the Vita method. So this is a vital and integrated tantric approach to sex, love, and relationships. So the reason that I created this methodology is because I went to Stanford University and studied human sexuality and have a deep background in psychology and neurobiology. And I also went to the jungle of Asia about the same time. So I would come and go, partially do my university studies and partially train with tantric gurus in the jungle. And so I had both a very deep training in classical tantra and neo-tantric practices. So classical tantra being more of the deep spiritual path and the mystical enlightenment tradition from India, Tibet and Nepal, predominantly. And from that sort of originated over the last few thousand years on the Asian subcontinent. And then Neo-Tantra, which was in some cases innovated by modern Indian teachers, and then also became really innovated in the West. And this is taking this deep understanding of philosophical Tantra, that everything is divine and that and access divine states of consciousness through the way that you move your body, through the way that you breathe, and really applying that deeply to sexual and relational practices. So what I found was that the philosophy of the classical tantric teachings really helps people overcome deep spiritual trauma of being told that their body isn't holy, or sex is a sin, or it's all just basically a distraction. And classical tantra is one of the most beautiful traditions in that it teaches that your body is actually the pathway to God and is God itself. So if your body is the pathway to God and your body is an expression of God, then sex is also a pathway to God, and sex is also an expression of God. So neo-tantric practices go more directly into sexuality, things like cervical activation and multiple types of orgasm, usually to experience more expanded states of ecstasy. So what I do is I teach a very comprehensive methodology that not only initiates people into the classical teachings, but into the neo teachings as well, and then also combines that with a very updated understanding of what is required to heal layers of trauma. Because as we open ourselves into these profound sexual states, the thing that's actually in the way of the deepest surrender, in the way of your most cosmic, earth-shattering orgasm, is usually layers of fear and layers of pain. So in order to fully expand sexually, and to do so in a way that's not performative, but is deeply organic and connected, requires an understanding of how to heal in sexuality and how to heal oneself sexually. So when you integrate all of that, it creates this vast activation of sexual capacity and erotic capacity and energetic capacity, which to me is the natural state of our religion and spiritual practices, which is to actually activate our aliveness and make us even more human and even more connected to the beauty of this experience, which is one of the great gifts of Tantra, and then one of the things that I love to teach.
What inspired you to actually follow this path in the beginning? What intrigued you about this?
It was a combination of different things. So when I was 11, I was a deeply practicing Catholic.
Oh, cool. Me too.
Yeah. And I wanted to be a nun and a missionary. And I was like really deep into it. And then I remember going to church one day and I was like, shit, if I'm just being a good person on threat of being thrown into hell and tortured for the rest of my life, like, A, I'm not really a good person. And B, what kind of God is this? So I was like, I feel God in church. Like I feel Christ consciousness, but I do not agree with what's being told to me. I don't agree with women being sinful and our bodies being, basically unholy. And so I went looking for a spiritual tradition that really spoke to me. And back in the day, there was not internet as we know it now. There were certainly not smartphones. So I went to the local library. I think
at 11 years old. Is this happening?
Yeah, the Colville Library. It was like by then it was like 12. Like I was seeking answers. And I researched all of the world's religions. And I came back home and I was like, I'm a Hindu. And my mom was like, what? I was like, I have researched the world's religions and I'm a Hindu. And she's like, what does that mean? I'm like, well, there's an elephant and there's Krishna. And she was very confused. And I actually asked, one of my friends was Indian. And so I asked him, I was like, will you please take me to your temple? And he was like, yeah, but you have to take it seriously. Cause I've always been, a cosmic jokester and laughing all the time. And I was like, I swear I will take it seriously. So I started actually going down the path of Hindu religion and Hindu tradition very, very, very young. And then I found a trip in the back of the New York Times when I was 14, and I begged my parents to send me to Asia. So they let me go on a trip when I was 15 to Tibet, India, and Nepal. And the first place we went on that trip was Kashmir. And Kashmir is the birthplace of Kashmir Shaivism and the Trika lineage, which is one of the left-handed traditions of Tantra that I am the most drawn to and the most inspired by. So it was pretty amazing. At 15, I was like, I want to go to the birthplace of Tantra, not even knowing that's what it was. Like that was not intentional at all. But I then was exposed to these glorious traditions and touched to the core by meditation and spiritual practices. So I had it very, very young to go and to explore and study these traditions. And so when I was 17, I actually wanted to go and find the real Tantra. I was like, you know what? I think what they're teaching here in the United States and what you can find on a DVD is not the real Tantra. I want to go and find it. And so I went to Asia. I bought a one-way ticket when I was 18, looking for real tantric practices. And alongside that, I experienced sexual abuse from my biological father when I was quite young. And so I had the experience of growing up hating my body. I blacked out during my first sexual experiences. I was going into traumatic freeze states. I was so disgusted with my own skin and so just blocked sexually. I couldn't even go into a Victoria's Secret because I was too triggered by lingerie and things like that. This is also being a teenager. So I remember being 18 as well and being like, oh my gosh, like 1 in 3 of us women have experienced this. And it's literally like there's not healing centers on every street corner, and had the kind of outrage that it seems like we should all have, but you really have when you're young. And I was like, how is this not a thing? And, we've made huge leaps and bounds in the last 20 years around trauma healing. But back then there was so little. In fact, I don't think most people realize that up until Oprah, some psychologists would teach people that sexual abuse was not that big of a deal for children. And it was actually Oprah who was really like, this is fucked up. This is bad. This is messing people up. And she said that, I believe, as a survivor herself. So culture had just started to change. And because I had the experience of hating my body and being so deeply traumatized and so disconnected from sexuality, when I went to look for healing, I found a lot of healing practices for survivors, as we like to call it in the West. And it was almost like to get to neutral, like just so you weren't feeling horrible, or just so you could basically have sex with your partner. And I was like, if I'm going to do all this healing work, I want to be better than if I hadn't been traumatized in the first place. And where is the model of exceptional levels of pleasure? Where is the model of having extraordinary sexuality, even with this level of trauma? And so I really dedicated myself to sexual healing. And I was like, I'm going to have an amazing relationship with a man and the most ecstatic orgasms, or I will die trying. So help me God. And so it was really this combination of my own path of healing and desire to heal sexually, combined with this very young alignment with the teachings of Tantra and the wisdom traditions of Asia.
Wow. So you mentioned the real Tantra. So what are the big misconceptions about Tantra? Because I think there's a lot of, people just think it's a sexual thing, or that Sting is like 7 hours orgasms or something. There's a lot of misconceptions.
There needs to be another cultural moment with Sting, because Sting was the one fast cultural moment in the United States around orgasm, or probably in England as well, right? Yeah. I think. So people still, that's their thing. They're like, but Sting does? And I'm like, yes and no. So the big misconception about Tantra is that, that it's only about sex. There's another big misconception that it's only about extended orgasms or having as much pleasure as possible. And there's often a lot of conflation with Tantra and the Kama Sutra. So the Kama Sutra is an ancient Indian text that does articulate how to live a life of pleasure and how to have amazing sexual pleasure and how to be compatible. But it has nothing to do with classical Tantra. So what people don't often understand about Tantra is that it is a thousands of years old tradition of enlightenment. And also what's very misunderstood in the West is the difference between what we call spirituality and enlightenment. So spirituality, we often talk about in English language as a phrase that means, as a word that means things that we experience when we're more deeply connected to ourselves. So when you're more deeply connected to yourself, you will be more psychic, you will have intuition, you will start to experience the energy and life force inside of your body. You can commune with beings and other frequencies. You can channel aliens, you can talk to fairies, right? You can talk to dead people. So there's all these things that start happening when you are connected to yourself. In the West, we tend to think of these things as special, but that's just because our practice of being connected to ourselves was repressed and stamped out over time with the torturing, murderous practices of the Christian and Catholic Church, which is not original Christianity in the heart of the Christian tradition, but is the misuse of power that happened all over Europe. So in the West, we tend to get really fascinated with what you can think of as spiritual phenomenon, which is really just the human capacity to interact with energy and other planes, and that we really are superhuman, but all humans are. It's not like a couple of us are special and have these capacities. Anybody who meditates for any period of time or does breath work for any period of time will start to acquire these, what we call spiritual capacities. This is very, very different from enlightenment. Enlightenment means that you actually wake up from the egoic delusion that you are separate from everything, and you discover your actual true nature. And this is often a very confusing, disorienting path that strips away a lot of your cherished notions about what it is to be human. So what's beautiful about the classical tantric tradition is it says that you can be enlightened and also enjoy this life. You can be enlightened and also get more of what you want in this life, and that you don't necessarily have to suffer in order to be enlightened. But it's not a path of just getting what you want. So a lot of the time in the West, we also think of spirituality as I'm going to do a spiritual practice and I'm going to manifest and I'm going to up my frequency and I'm going to attract this person and I'm going to have this amount of money. And that can be part of the spiritual path, because becoming more powerful and realizing that you're a co-creator with the universe can be part of that deepening into yourself and knowing who and what you are. But ultimately, the Enlightenment traditions will teach you that death and loss are just as holy and sacred as having or succeeding or life itself. And so there's often a much deeper, more profound awakening that happens with enlightenment. And so one of the big misconceptions is that Tantra is only about getting more of what you want, more orgasm, better sex, all of that, which can be side effects of the tradition. But if you're practicing real Tantra, it's going to be leading you towards enlightenment, which is a totally different game of ego dissolution.
So how does one get started on the tantric path?
There's many different ways.
It sounds so good.
It's a great question. It's complex. So one of my friends, he's much younger. He's 27 and he's like a golden child, and he's like the heir of like a mass fortune in the United States. And he's decided he's going to let go of everything and go seek consciousness. And so he was asking me at a party this weekend, like, where can he go seek true consciousness? And I was telling him about the difference between spirituality and enlightenment. And he was like, I want enlightenment. Where do I study that? And it's not that simple to find good teachers, right? To find your teacher, to find good teachers, to find true deep initiation, because it's a combination of the right fit. It's a combination of karmic alignment. It's a combination of the person teaching in a tradition which really speaks to you. And that can be very complex. But the traditional way to start on the tantric path is to find your teacher. So it's very much a tradition of teachers and lineage and working with people who have gone before you. So if you really want to do it, then traditionally you start chanting the Guru Stotram and you call in your teacher and you make that an intention, like, I want to find my teacher, and your teacher will come. And in the meantime, the guru is everywhere and everything. And so it can surely be transmitting wisdom to you, even without finding your teacher. So you can get started reading books, doing various practices, but it is a very big blessing to find a true teacher in this tradition.
Would you say you're a teacher of Tantra now?
I am a teacher of Tantra.
Amazing.
I teach, I do. I teach very much. I still teach at a layer. My intention right now is to teach the first building blocks for people. And then if they want to go much deeper, they can. And that's very much by design. I want to teach at a level where most people can access and utilize these teachings in a powerful way. And then there are teachers who live in the jungle or do deeper retreats if you want to, like, my favorite enlightenment teacher was Adyashanti. He's not particularly tantric. He's more Zen, although there's a lot of crossover between the two traditions, but he stopped teaching. He was my favorite, just like pure Enlightenment teacher.
Amazing. So imagine if someone's in a couple and a partnership and they want to find more meaning to sexuality or more kind of sacredness to it. What would advice would you give? And what would you do if the partner's not fully on board with that? Because I mean, sexuality is such a personal expression. I mean, some people don't see it as sacred at all, and they think that takes away from that carnal aspect. You know, there's so many opinions. And, you know, I've had experiences where people have told me, oh yeah, I'm into Tantra, I'm into sex. And then you get into the bedroom and they're kind of like more influenced by porn than spirituality. And you're like, hang on a minute, this is, you know, I mean, it's quite hard to kind of lead someone into that way of thinking if they're not fully on board. What advice would you give to someone who's in, let's say, a partnership to kind of to bring the Tantra in?
I will absolutely respond to that question. And I also want to speak to the people who say they practice Tantra and then they're more informed by porn. I had a friend once who, like, she was like dating this guy on Raya and he was in an open relationship and he was like, my wife's totally cool with this and I want to come over and give you a third eye orgasm yoni massage, yoni being the Sanskrit word, essentially sacred temple, which means sacred portal, which means your pussy in your womb. And so he came over and she was like, it was pornographic. It wasn't connected, anything like that. And afterwards I texted him and I was like, where did you study Tantra? And he texted back, what? Like a question mark. So buyer beware of people who sell themselves as tantric lovers, and do your research before you hop into bed with them. And in terms of being a couple wanting to get started, so it's a fascinating question because right now me and my beloved, we teach a program called the Tantric Mastermind. And so it's a 6-month initiation for couples who want to go very deep on the Tantric path together. And right now we spend most of our time on our calls with people talking to the resistant partner because one part like, wow. Oh, and like, I want to do everything and I'm ready to evolve. And the other partner's like, what the hell is this? Now, what's really beautiful is that last year was our first cohort. And because I have taught 2 women for a long time, I teach both women and men and people of all gender orientations. But for the last 10 years, my professional certification was for women and feminine beings. And so I have not taught men as much for a period of time. So in that, the couples that were drawn to our Tantric Mastermind, by and large, the woman was really like sold. Like she knew who I was, she was ready to go. And like she had a very resistant husband. And sometimes a husband who was like, I don't believe in energy. I think this is all bullshit. Like started, came to the first classes, like arms crossed, like grumpy face or whatever. And without exception, in that entire cohort, every single person, all the resistant ones and all of the men, even the ones who didn't believe in energy, were touched to the core. Almost every couple had the best sex of their life. The couples who were married 20 years, 28 years, they all said they fell more in love than ever in their partnership. So this is to say that Tantra is this incredibly deep and potent path of enlightenment. And it also is incredible medicine, even for people who don't drink the Kool-Aid or haven't experienced the truth of the philosophy and the tradition all the way for themselves. Because energy works and going deeper into intimacy works, and trading out the old understanding that sex is just a physical act for sex being an energetic act, for sex being a powerful act that includes spiritual realization, it vastly enhances people's sexual experience. And there is a common misunderstanding that if you're going to practice tantric sexuality, then it has to be just sublime. It just, you're only chanting for like 2 hours, and then he gently inserts his lingam into the yoni and pauses for 2 hours while they both meditate, right? Like this is what people are like, oh God, no.
That sounds cool. That sounds good though.
Exactly. Like ain't nobody got time for that. So anyways, the real practice of tantric sexuality is to experience the full capacity of what it is to be sexual. And I spend probably more time teaching people how to be genuinely primal. And genuinely primal means that all of us have a potent, powerful sexual essence to us. And actually, we crave that in each other, and we crave that experience in ourselves. What nobody likes is primal or wild sexuality disconnected from the heart or not present. So this is where the major misconception happens, right? Like, I'm making love with a man and he is jackhammering away and he's fantasizing in his head. You're like, oh God, kill me now, right? However, if he is in his heart and he is feeling me and he is loving me and he is present in his body and he is giving me the full force of his fuck, it is heavenly. So there's a lot of misunderstanding right now of like primal sex is because a lot of us experience primal sex in a disconnected way where our partner wasn't fully there with us. And so that obviously will shut down the body. Anything too hard, too fast shuts your body down. Like if a really talented massage therapist comes in and starts the massage going really hard into your back, what are you going to do? You're going to be like, ah! Like, stop. You need the opening. You need the connection. Even a massage therapist who's giving you a really hard massage and they're not attuned to your body, it's going to feel really bad. So what people crave is actually attuned primal sex. And so this is a lot of my work that I do with men is some men who have gotten into spirituality then become afraid of their primal fuck. And it's actually like, no, like your partner wants your primal fuck. They just want your primal fuck attached to your presence and your heart. So when you do training like that, you become this multidimensional lover, and being nasty and kinky and raw and all of that is so important. And tantric sexuality isn't, it's designed to bring you into presence, no matter what kind of sex you're having, and to actually make sex more of an expression of art rather than a kind of formulaic thing. So if you're like addicted to a certain kind of role play or a certain kind of kink and it's a habit, Tantra will break that for you. But if you are drawn impulsively into a kind of role play, into a kind of kink, and it's authentic and present, Tantra will bring you into more of that.
Yeah, I think for me, I always feel safety is the first most important thing. And then when I feel safe, I can be slutty kind of thing, because I think that first port of call of just, being with someone who does respect me, then I can do all the primal stuff. But that first is it's very important to have that ticked
It's
off.
actually so unhealthy to want to give the deepest, most sacred parts of you, which are your slutty parts, to somebody who doesn't know basic safety or who doesn't know how to respect you or can't create a container, whether that's intentional lovership or monogamous partnership or conscious, ethical non-monogamy, whatever the container is, right? Having someone agree to the container that's right for you is also really essential to experience these things at the deepest level. And one of the things that I've seen that's very sad is that so many things that you see women do in pornography are actually things that women can crave when they're loved and safe and deeply desired by their partner and met by their partner. But it's a sacred gift, right? It's like when I'm so hot for my beloved and he's like, just like so in his sacred masculine, like I totally want him to choke me, come on my face, right? But like, it's like, I'm so turned on by you, right? And because you have served me and like honored me and you hold me, right? And it's like this deep sacred offering of my desire and my wildness. But what happened is men took that because they crave it. What deep down inside, the tragedy of porn to me is that heterosexual men or bisexual men want a woman to want them that bad. They want a woman to want them so much that she's like, I would love for you to come in my face. Like, that's how hot your semen is to me, right? Because they don't know, or patriarchy lied to them about how to open a woman that deeply. They become angry and disconnected from the feminine. And then it's like, okay, we're just going to use her as an object. Like we're now going to take all these things that we actually crave in our soul because it's an expression of our partner being so open and so surrendered. And we're just going to objectify them and cheapen them and now use it against women. And what's really sad is I also think then that shuts a lot of women off from their like craziest, wildest side, because it's like, wait, that's been used against me, right? Like that's the dirty, nasty underground thing that like men are getting off to. And I don't want to engage in any of that. But what's happened is it's hidden us from this really beautiful place where desire and safety and honor are there. And then the wildest, most beautiful states of Eros unlock. And I wish I could show every man addicted to porn right now or watching porn right now, which is probably some ungodly number, how much his soul craves a woman or the feminine in front of him being so connected to him and his sexual gift and his sexual power that she would want that from him and he would never have to take it.
So how can we practice Tantra as a solo practice? Is, if you don't have a partner, but you want to have that sacred experience?
Yeah. Well, the cool thing about sacred solo practice is that it will do a couple of things for you if you are single. So let's say you're single and you're looking for partnership. If you are sexually deprived and you haven't had an orgasm in a really long time, right? The first person who comes along and gives you an orgasm, you're going to be like, maybe this is my husband.
So, it's like playing drunk, isn't it? It's like a drunkenness. It can really cloud your vision and your decision-making, being horny.
Totally. So actually being sexually satisfied and being able to take care of your own ecstasy is a really powerful way to not get blindsided by being addicted to somebody else's sexual eros. Because a lot of what keeps us from the partnerships that we most desire is spending our time and energy in the things that we don't really want. And we all have a deep sexual need. And we all know the archetype of the person that's like, God, that's the best sex ever, but you're so bad for me emotionally. So if you don't let yourself have really amazing cosmic extended orgasms on your own, you're going to be far more prone to getting addicted to someone where that's the only thing they offer you. And sometimes the best sex we ever have is with the people who aren't that good for us, or is with the people who don't want to marry us. I think there's a much better type of sex with someone who's fully devoted to you and who is choosing you in partnership. But there's a kind of crazy sex that's always going to be a little bit like white sugar that you're like, right? So you're going to crave white sugar if you're starving yourself a lot more. So a solo sexual practice keeps you from being starved when you're out in the marketplace for dating. Then the other thing that happens is that people are drawn to erotic vibrations. So when you have your own solo practice and you up level how you are holding your eros and how you are holding your life force energy and how orgasmic you are, people really feel that. And men feel that. They can really feel erotic power in a woman, and a woman who's cultivated her erotic power and is open to it is very attractive to them. A woman who's leaking sexual energy, men are smarter than a lot of the mainstream gives them credit for. A woman who's leaking sexual energy, they will treat in a leaky way. A woman who channels sexual energy in a really beautiful way through the heart, it's like, wow, like
so can you explain what does leaking look like? What would leaking look like?
Leaking sexual energy happens when you actually don't channel your sexual energy up into the heart. So if you don't open your central channel when you're doing sexual activation practices, you will actually hit an upper limit. So there's a band that runs across your solar plexus that actually can either open up and let your eros pulsate pure power through your abdominal chakras, which will give you a lot of personal power, and then pulsate upwards into your heart. So literally your sexual pleasure blossoms open your heart. This is what integrated sexuality looks like. And then eventually your eros makes its way all the way up to your third eye and blossoms open your mystical capacity. Because most of us have been conditioned to cut off our higher chakras out of fear of our own spiritual and personal power. We'll usually have a repressed energy sitting in the solar plexus band that will push the sexual energy back down. When that energy doesn't have anywhere to go, what happens is it will actually start pulsating outwards. And usually it pulsates outwards with a kind of vibration that says, pick me, pay attention to me, want me, desire me. Because if you've blocked your energy from moving up your central channel, you won't know your own worthiness. You won't know your own value. And you'll still be stuck playing the sexual game of, I need you to love me and want me so that I can love and want myself. And that's what leaky sexual energy looks like. It's like my erotic power is being used to hook you so that you can give me something that actually I should be holding myself. Like, as much as I want someone to love me, I should know how lovable I am with or without that person loving me. As much as I want someone to desire me, which is totally healthy, I should know how worthy I am with or without someone desiring me. So leaky sexual energy is, I want to hook you with my sexual power and energy so that you can show me something that's actually mine to show myself. When you open that central channel, the leaky energy goes in and up and actually aligns. And in this way, you can hold a lot of erotic power, and it will look and feel like grace. It will look and feel like radiance. And it will look and feel like, wow, like she's hot, but she's not trying to hook me. It's a very different experience of erotic power.
Love it.
You can cultivate that by using a crystal wand, a crystal egg, doing your own sexual solo spiritual practices, doing sex magic on a regular basis, which is an incredible practice. And I love doing pleasure practices every morning, 5 minutes up to an hour, just like you would do a yoga practice, but you do it to cultivate your pleasure, your turn on, your orgasm. And this is how you create all of the things that I've been talking about, like full body orgasms, deeper capacity for sexual intimacy, and up leveling of your magnetism. All of that happens from a regular pleasure practice.
Which takes me to my next question, which is my favorite topic in the world, which you also talk about, is orgasmic manifestation.
Yeah.
This is my absolute favorite topic. I've just written a book about it, and it's just been such a profound, it's just changed my life in so many ways. I'd love to know about your best practices and what it means to you, and what's the most effective way to manifest, and what you've discovered on this journey.
Yeah. So I call this practice sex magic. Orgasmic manifestation is also a really beautiful word for it, because you can do it with or without a partner. So it's really beautiful. And it's using the power of your orgasm to manifest. My favorite way to do it currently is out in nature, and to actually use the power and energy of the earth to amplify and charge the erotic energy. And when you pulsate through all of your chakras, it actually activates your whole body, so that when you make your manifestation, you're a different level of attunement, a different level of frequency. And then when you do the visualization of what you want, then it's actually landing in a much deeper way into your nervous system and into your body for the manifestation, which is one of the reasons that makes it so incredibly powerful. I also love doing it with my partners. So there's all different positions you can do for each chakra to activate the chakras sexually, so that by the time you get to the full orgasmic manifestation, you and your partner are in this harmonic frequency of just being drenched in pleasure and ecstasy. It's so amazing. And then you can do the same manifestation together, and it's mind-blowingly powerful. Like, I couldn't believe how powerful it was when I first started. I went to Stanford University, so I was like, the fuck? Like, you just orgasm your way to having what you want. And it's so powerful. Like, I mean, I manifested my current partnership that way. I manifested health back from long COVID. I manifested, a certain, like, I could actually choose the exact number of people in my programs at a certain time.
Oh, wow. That's super effective.
Yeah, it was really amazing. And always I would do a North Star prayer of, please allow this to manifest only in the highest good of all beings, right? So it was never like, I want this many people in my program, no matter what. It's like, please magnetize the people who are meant to be here, and it will be in genuine support of their highest selves. And I always manifest that way.
Amazing. Have you experimented with things like sigils and in different ways? Have you had lots of variety in your practice?
I actually, Mia Magic gets really into sigils, and she helped me do a sigil a long time ago. I should actually go look back at the one that I made for my partner, because it was about like 6 months before I met him.
Oh, wow.
A full sigil, but that was the only time I've actually ever done a sigil.
And it worked.
I think so. I should go back and look at the exact things that I listed. I'm sure he's every one of them.
Oh, wow. You have to be very specific. Sometimes you miss out on something that's can be important. I've actually just I've been practicing since 2018, and I'm constantly evolving my practice. And just recently, I've been doing something that I talk about, which is just tapping into the feeling. And I've just been really tapping into not exactly the thing, but the feeling I really want. So I just realized that across the board in any domain of life, I really want to feel safe, and that can apply to It can apply to love, it can apply to work, and freelance life is all up and down, money, things like that. That feeling of safety and just trying to embody what that means without it being a specific desire. So that's something I'm kind of experimenting right now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really beautiful to use it to create feeling states.
Mhm. Amazing. So a couple of questions I ask all of my guests. What is the book that changed your life?
Was a book that changed my life. Well, the first book that I ever read is actually a Taoist book. So Taoism, very simple way to put it is it's very similar to the tantric practice, but in China.
Mhm.
And I read the book, The Tao of Sex. Is it Sex, Health, and Longevity? It's by Daniel Reed. It's definitely got the word sex and longevity in it. And I read it when I was 18, living in a hut in Thailand. And it taught the first microcosmic orbit and sexual practices. So I literally locked myself in the hut and masturbated for like 10 days straight while I was also on a fast. So like I didn't eat for 10 days and I just like masturbated constantly. I was just like literally do not try this at home, pounding my crown chakra with like 18-year-old arrows. And I was like, holy shit, this stuff works. This is amazing. So the Tao, I think it's the Tao of Health, Sex, and Longevity by Daniel Reed. That book was my full entry into like, wow, you can really do stuff with your erotic power. This is amazing.
Amazing. What about a quote that you live by?
A quote that I live by, there's two. So one, I think it's from Neem Karoli Baba, who was the teacher of Ram Dass. And I'm paraphrasing, but it's love everybody and tell them the truth.
Okay.
So sometimes we get really caught up in the love and we forget about the truth part. So I love that. Love everybody and tell them the truth. And in business, I actually really love this Warren Buffett quote, love a good Warren Buffett quote, which is, it takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it. And if you think about that, you'll do things differently. Sometimes I feel like integrity can be a lost art in the modern world. And I really like thinking about doing things in terms of decades and not minutes or years.
So what is it like for you to actually work in this passion then? I mean, because obviously I think a lot of spiritual people sometimes lack the grounding, and obviously it's necessary, with business practices. How's it been for you?
Yeah, I mean, turns out I was good at business. When I was, younger I've been talking a lot about being a spiritual practitioner as like a teenager and into my 20s and stuff like that. I was actually quite anti-capitalist. I was like, I don't need any money. And business is for whatever. Anti-spiritual, really. And it took a while to really feel. There's this amazing teaching in the Hindu tradition, actually, which is to have a complete life and especially to have a grounded spiritual path. You have moksha, dharma, kama, and artha, which means that moksha is liberation or enlightenment. Dharma is that you follow what you were made to do in this lifetime. Like you follow the truth of your path, whether that's career, whether that's motherhood, whether that's making money, whether that's being a monk, whether that's being a householder. Like you listen to the truth of this lifetime. And then artha is wealth, success. Like you actually should have success and grounding and make money in order to have the spaciousness and the time to meditate if you're a householder. And this is what I think a lot of Westerners get very confused by, is this whole renunciation path is for monks. So monks didn't just renounce everything. They lived in ashrams where they got given food, right? Or they begged in cultures where their culture was always going to give them money. So we're not renunciates in the West. We actually have to make money, and making money and having a solid business or a solid career actually vastly supports your spiritual practice. And one of the things I love about Tantra as well is that your business is a spiritual practice. There is no difference. And so doing business as a spiritual practice really, really was a huge upgrade and up level in my life. And then you have kama, which is love and relationship. So you actually want to be able to be good at all of them if you're a householder. And to be good at all of them is actually to give you the greatest shot at liberation because you're heavily supported. So I was really good at building business, and our company's been wildly successful. So I've been teaching for 18 years, but doing online for 12. And I have a really stable team. I love them. I originally built my company with my partner at the time, and then we separated in 2020. We separated as business partners in 2020, and then as a couple in 2021. I have an amazing CEO. She's incredible. And one of the things that I teach a lot in Vita coaching, which is my professional certification, is that business will be your greatest teacher if you let it, your guru, if you will, because every uncomfortable thing that happens is an opportunity to love yourself, is an opportunity to come deeper into truth, is an opportunity to meet all parts of the universe. So like the internet is this incredible thing, because back in the day, you would go sit in a cave and you'd meet all the demons and all the dark sides of the planet and all the other things, and you'd have to face all of them. But now we don't have to sit in caves. We can just make a post on Instagram. Literally experience all of the dark sides of the world, right? Or all of the like wild that's out there. And so if you use it as a meditative practice and you actually do business as a way of coming home to yourself, it ends up being an incredible teacher and a vastly liberatory path. And so that's how I have done business and felt deeply fulfilled. And also when you run your own business, you can be as feminine as you want to be. So it's amazing in some ways that we equate business and money making with masculinity. But to me, that's just from patriarchy, because women are creativity itself. They are abundance itself. They are fertility and manifestation and all of these things. And so being able to build and create and make money can be a deeply feminine thing. You just learn to do it in your own way and not in the way that everybody else does it. And you can end up being at this really incredible frequency of creation.
I love that. I love that. Because that whole having intention, I think when I became spiritual, which was much later in life than you, it just changed my idea about, my content. But first it was like, how much am I getting paid for this? And now it's more, what can I contribute? How can I serve? It's a very different energy.
Yeah. Well, those go together.
Mm-hmm.
Being in love with the people that you serve and making things for them is also what allows them to recognize that they want to work with you. So I feel like the two go hand in hand.
Amazing. So where can people find you?
People can find me at laylamartin.com. So that the best way to stay connected to me is actually on my email list. That's where we release all of our products and programs. That's where I share my most in-depth teachings, my personal journey. So go over to laylamartin.com, sign up with your email address. You can also find me on Instagram. So I think I'm partially blacklisted on Instagram, which is such bullshit. Because you can totally advertise for Viagra on Meta.
Yeah.
Female pleasure. So you have to actually search the Layla Martin, or else I don't really come up. But if you do the Layla Martin, you'll find me on Instagram. Also on YouTube, we make a lot of content. And I have a podcast called This Tantric Life, which is on Spotify, Apple, and all the amazing places that you can watch podcasts.
Amazing. I love it. I'll be tuning in. So thank you so much for joining us today on the Orgasmic Lifestyle. It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, it's wonderful being here. Thank you. And thank you for the work you do.
The book I'm reading now is Manifest Your Infinite Riches, Master the Art of Living an Abundant Life by Pushkar Anand. And he is a future podcast guest. And whenever I see titles like this, I jump on them. I was so excited about reading this book and also about booking an interview with Pushkar Anand. As you may know, if you've been a regular listener of this podcast, I love Think and Grow Rich, and I love books about money in general. However, we must point out that riches does not just apply to financial riches. It's all over abundance. And so I'm just trying to tap into this frequency myself a lot of the time, and just trying to remind myself of my own infinite riches and abundance. This book really served as a reminder for many things that I already know and appreciate. And I think you can never know too much about the techniques of manifestation, about visualization, subconscious reprogramming, etc. And there's lots of frameworks that are offered in this book. And what I really like about it that's different from other books of the same genre is it kind of encourages you to create your own kind of framework and even score different techniques of manifestation and how efficient they are for you, because it's not the same for everyone. That's really important to point out. But one thing that's kind of highlighted throughout this book is the concept of vision boards, and that's not something I've ever done, to be honest. I've just not been called to it. But seeing this message, perhaps from the universe, about vision boards and how effective they've been for the author, I might be tempted to make one myself. I think sometimes with vision boards, I like the idea more of having, rather than having actual, images on, let's say, your screensaver, or even in a book, cutting out things from magazines. Someone mentioned once that I think it was another law of attraction influencer called Robert Zink. I love him, actually. He talked about how sometimes if you watching something, you can maybe your subconscious is kind of blocking you. Let's say you have a Ferrari on a vision board. Maybe your conscious mind is saying you'll never have that. So I think sometimes on our vision boards, we have to we might not be aware what our inner beliefs are about the thing we have on them. So I personally prefer to work with sigils, which are symbols that represent our desires, and they kind of communicate more with the subconscious without that conscious obstacle, let's say. And so you can actually make a vision board with all these different squiggles that represent different things, and when you look at it, you won't even know what it means. But when you actually make it, every single symbol has meaning and emotion that you've put into it. So I don't know if that really makes any sense, but a sigil is when you, for example, you write. There are many ways to make sigils, but one method would be writing an affirmation and then writing it again without, eliminating letters that are repeated. And then with the remaining letters, you kind of make a pattern jumbled up, very, very random, very personal. And then you simplify until it's just a few squiggles. And while you're doing it, you're putting all the emotion into that process. And then you leave it for a while, and then you pick it up and you've forgotten what it is, but your subconscious still remembers. That's not in this book, but I just think that's another way of making vision boards. So it's a very personal thing, making vision boards. And it's interesting as well how, some people who talk about manifestation, talking about dream big, and whereas others are talking about something that's more achievable and attainable. So there are so many ways to manifest, and everything. I think it's worth trying different things to see what's working for you, and that's the beauty of this book, how it has things that have been working. The author scores different things for himself, and also offers you to make your own daily rituals as well. So it's nice to have here are some tools, make your own, because everything is very personal at the end of the day. It's good to have some different inputs and create your own methods for manifesting your infinite riches. And the feeling of infinite riches is so beautiful. When I think about infinite riches, I think about comfort and expansion. And it's not just money, because sometimes people can be very, financially abundant, but they are emotionally poor or relationship poor. And I saw a lot of that in the States, actually. A lot of people who are just work, and they had very toxic habits and very neglected emotional lives. And I think it's really important to try and, have awareness of what is going to help you feel or experience fulfillment and satisfaction in your life. It's not just work. And even Napoleon Hill talks about in Think and Grow Rich how a relationship really is a great supporting factor for your success. And in the chapter of sexual transmutation, which is one of my favorite chapters of the book. And I'm really excited about publishing the interview of Pushkar Anand, which will be at the end of August, because it was just such a great interview. I really, really enjoyed it. And he was joined by Blaine Bartlett, who is actually his mentor. And I wasn't expecting him to be joining the call. And I was a bit, oh my God, I'm not really used to interviewing two people at the same time, because now these days I don't actually prepare questions anymore. I'm kind of like relying on the flow state and intuition and things like that, and just natural curiosity. So I was a little bit, oh my God, a little bit intimidated in a nice way. And it ended up being really beautiful and amazing. And it turns out that Blaine Bartlett is actually the chancellor of the Napoleon Hill Institute, and I was like, oh my god, I'm such a fan of Napoleon Hill. So that was one of a great blessing that I experienced recently. So this podcast for me is a blessing, and it really is part of my own orgasmic reality of reaching a climax in all areas of life. So yeah, that will be coming at the end of August. And if you want to have a reminder, or even if you're at the beginning of your journey of manifestation, law of attraction, and trying to call in abundance, I would recommend this book, Manifest Your Infinite Riches, Master the Art of Living an Abundant Life by Pushkar Anand. Now it's time for this episode's meditation. Please don't listen to this while driving or operating machinery. Instead, take a break from whatever you're doing, get comfortable, take a deep breath, and enjoy. My body is a temple of sacred energy. Pleasure is my prayer. I am safe to feel. Desire lives in me as a divine force. Every breath brings me closer to presence. I soften, I open, I receive. I am whole, I am holy. My body is a temple of sacred energy. Pleasure is my prayer. My sensuality is wisdom in motion. I trust my body's rhythm and truth. I reclaim every part of me with love. I am connected to earth, to spirit, to source. I am whole. I am holy. My body is a temple of sacred energy. Pleasure is my prayer. I am both fire and stillness. My intimacy is a portal to healing. Love flows through me. I am awake in my longing. I am whole. I am holy. My body is a temple of sacred energy. Pleasure is my prayer. I meet discomfort with compassion. Tantra is the dance of spirit in form. I am woven into the fabric of life, awake and alive. Awareness is my anchor. I am whole. I am holy. My body is a temple of sacred energy. Pleasure is my prayer. Touch is a language of the soul. I surrender to joy. I walk the tantric path with devotion and presence. I embrace the divine in all things, both light and shadow. I am whole. I am holy. My body is a temple of sacred energy. Pleasure is my prayer. My breath connects me to the infinite. I embody consciousness. Presence is my greatest practice. I trust the wisdom that lives in my body. I am whole. I am holy. Are you looking to strengthen your pelvic floor in a fun and engaging way? Introducing PeriFit, the pelvic floor trainer that combines biofeedback with interactive video games. With PeriFit, you can track your progress and improve your pelvic health while playing video games with your vagina on your smartphone. It's easy, effective, and more importantly, it's fun. And for a limited time, get 25% off with the code Venus15 at checkout. That's perifit.co and use the code Venus15 for 25% off. The link is also in the show notes. Disclaimer: consult your healthcare provider before starting any new fitness program. To find out more about me and my orgasmic lifestyle, visit venusohara.org or follow me on Instagram. The Orgasmic Lifestyle is also on Substack and YouTube, where you can watch all the interviews with our experts. All the links are in the show notes below. Make sure to search for the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast by Venus O'Hara in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or anywhere podcasts are found. And click subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Thanks for listening, have an orgasmic week, and make sure every day is a climax.